Part 1. The Hunter's Mistake. The Galactic Council Chamber floated in the void between stars, a massive structure of crystal and metal that had witnessed 1,000 years of decisions. Today, those decisions would determine the fate of a species that had only just learned to walk among the stars. Overseer Thal stood before the assembled representatives, his scaled hands clasped behind his back. The hologram before him showed a small blue-green planet, unremarkable except for one detail. The humans had done something impossible. They cracked faster than light travel in 40 years, Thal said, his voice cold and measured. Without our guidance, without our technology, without our permission, murmurs rippled through the council. A representative from the Krev Dominion, insectoid and ancient, clicked its mandibles. How is this possible? We controlled their scientific development. We embedded observers in their institutions. The humans worked in secret, Thal replied. A research station on their colony world, New Busan. One engineer working with a small team created what they call a fold drive. It violates every known principle of physics, and it works better than our own systems. Silence fell. The council understood what this meant. For centuries, they had maintained control through technological superiority. Species that joined the council did so because they needed the council's FTL technology to survive. The humans had just broken that chain. We cannot allow this, Thal continued. If humanity shares this technology, every species will question our authority. Chaos will spread. We must act now before this knowledge reaches Earth. What do you propose? Asked a crystalline being from the core worlds. Thal smiled, though the expression held no warmth. We send a message, one that will be understood across the galaxy. We eliminate the engineer and destroy her research, and we use a method that will remind everyone why the Council's rules exist. He gestured, and another hologram appeared. The council members recoiled. Even after millennia of civilization, the sight of a Vrathian hunter still triggered primal fear. His name is Kale, Thal said. From the death world of Vrath, he has completed 27 impossible hunts. He has never failed. The humans will learn that defying the council has consequences. The vote was quick. The decision was unanimous. Within the hour, Kale received his mission. The research station on New Busan was small, housing only 15 people. It orbited a red dwarf star far from the major shipping lanes. Perfect for secret research, perfect for an isolated kill. Yuna sat in her lab, surrounded by screens showing equations that would have seemed like magic to her ancestors. She was tired. She had been working for 16 hours straight, trying to solve a stability problem with the fold drive's energy matrix. Her coffee had gone cold 3 hours ago, but she barely noticed. She was 28 years old, small and thin, with dark circles under her eyes from too many sleepless nights. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and her jumpsuit had a coffee stain on the sleeve. She looked like any overworked engineer in the galaxy. She did not look like someone who had just changed the course of galactic history. The station's alarms should have warned her. The sensors should have detected the approaching pod. But Kale had disabled them hours ago, using council technology that the humans had never seen. He moved through the station like smoke, past the sleeping crew quarters, past the common areas, following the heat signature of the one person still awake. He found her in the lab, her back to the door, focused entirely on her work. Kale was a nightmare made flesh, 8 feet tall with 4 arms ending in blade-like claws. His skin was covered in dark, chitinous armor that could stop most weapons. His head was angular and predatory, with 4 eyes that could see in 12 different spectrums. He had been born on a world where everything was a predator, and only the strongest survived. His people had evolved to be perfect killers. He had killed politicians, scientists, soldiers, and rebels. He had killed them quietly and loudly, quickly and slowly, depending on what the mission required. He felt nothing about it. Killing was what he was made for, like a blade was made for cutting. But as he stood in the doorway watching this small human hunched over her screens, something felt different. He pushed the feeling aside. The mission was clear. The target was alone. This would be over in seconds. He stepped into the room, his claws extending. The movement made a faint sound, barely a whisper of chitin on metal. Yuna turned around. Kyle expected screaming. He expected running. He expected begging or fighting or freezing in terror. He had seen every possible reaction to imminent death. Yuna looked at him for a long moment, her eyes moving from his claws to his face. Then she said, "You're beautiful." Kyle stopped. In 200 years of life, no one had ever said that to him. His kind were called monsters, demons, nightmares. They were respected, feared, and hated, but never beautiful. "Your armor," Yuna continued, her voice surprisingly steady, "the way it overlaps. It's like scaled dragon hide from Earth legends. And your eyes, the way they reflect light. 4 different colors. I've never seen anything like it." "I am here to kill you," Kale said. His voice was harsh, designed to frighten. "The Galactic Council has ordered your death." "I figured," Yuna said. She did not move from her chair. "You disabled the alarms very carefully, professional. That means this isn't random. The Council must have found out about the fold drive." "You are not afraid," Kyle said. It was not a question, but a statement of confusion. "I'm terrified," Yuna admitted. "My heart is beating so fast I think I might pass out. But fear won't change what happens next, so I might as well talk to you. I've always wanted to meet a Vrathian. We have almost no information about your species. The Council keeps it classified." "Why do you want to know?" Kale asked. He should kill her now. He should complete the mission. But something was wrong with his programming. The implants in his brain were telling him to strike, but his body was not obeying. "Because you're a person," Yuna said simply. "You think, you speak, you make choices. That makes you a person, regardless of what you look like. And I like learning about people. I am a weapon," Kale said. "I do not make choices. I follow orders." "Then why are we still talking?" Yuna asked. Kyle had no answer. The implants were causing pain now, sharp spikes of agony in his skull trying to force compliance. But for the first time in his life, he was resisting. "What is your name?" Yuna asked. "Kyle. I'm Yuna. It's nice to meet you, Kyle, even under these circumstances." She paused. "Can I ask you something?" The implants screamed at him. Every instinct told him to end this. But he said, "Yes, do you want to kill me?" The question was simple. The answer should have been simple. But Kale found himself thinking, really thinking for the first time in decades. Did he want this? Or was it just what he was told to want? "I don't know," he said finally. "Then don't," Yuna said. "You have a choice. You always have a choice. The Council will send others. You will die anyway." "Maybe," Yuna agreed. "But not by your hand. Not if you choose differently." Kale raised his primary claws. Yuna did not flinch. She looked him in the eyes, and he saw something there that he had never seen before. She looked at him like he was a person too, not a weapon, not a monster. Just a person who could make a choice. The claws trembled. The implants burned. And for the first time in 200 years, Kale chose to not kill. He lowered his arms. "What have you done to me?" he whispered. "Nothing," Yuna said softly. "I just asked you to be yourself." Outside the lab, the stars continued to turn. The Council continued to scheme. And in that small room, a weapon learned that it could be something more. But the pain in Kale's head was growing worse. The implants would not accept his disobedience. He fell to one knee, claws scraping against his own skull. Yuna stood up. "What's wrong? What's happening?" "Punishment," Kale gasped. "For failing. The implants will kill me if I do not complete the mission." Yuna moved closer despite the danger. "Where are they?" "The implants? Neural clusters. Base of skull. 3 primary nodes. I can remove them," Yuna said. "I work with delicate electronics every day. Neural implants are just another kind of circuit. You would help me? After I came to kill you?" "You chose not to," Yuna said. "That means something. Now let me help you make that choice permanent." Kyle looked at this small human, this impossible creature who saw value where others saw only a weapon, and he made a second choice of the day. "Do it," he said. Neither of them knew that the Council was already preparing their response. Neither of them knew that by morning, a kill squad would be on its way. Neither of them knew that this moment, this choice would change the galaxy forever. All they knew was that for the first time, both of them had chosen their own path, and there was no going back. Part 2, Breaking Chains. The surgery took 3 hours. Yuna had cleared her lab table, sterilized it as best she could with cleaning alcohol and UV lights, and laid out every delicate tool she owned. Kyle lay on the table, too large for it, his secondary arms hanging off the sides. His primary arms gripped the table edges so hard the metal bent. "I need you to stay still," Yuna said, her hand shaking slightly as she activated her micro-laser cutter. "If I slip even a millimeter, I could damage your motor functions or memory centers." Then do not slip, Kale said through gritted teeth. The implants were burning like fire in his skull, pumping his system full of pain signals and aggressive hormones, trying to force him to complete his mission or die trying. Yuna made the first incision at the base of his skull, where the armor plating was thinnest. Dark blue blood welled up and she quickly cauterized the small vessels. Kale's body was built differently than any anatomy she had studied, but circuits were circuits, and she could see the implants through her magnification screen. They were ugly things, metallic tendrils woven through neural tissue like parasitic roots, 3 main nodes just as Kale had said, with dozens of smaller connections spreading outward. They pulsed with a sickly light, pumping out signals that she could detect on her scanner. They're fighting back, she said. Every time I get close, they send out a surge. They're trying to stop me. They are trying to kill me for failing, Kale said. If you cannot remove them, I will die. But I will die free. You're not dying today, Yuna said firmly. She switched tools, using a magnetic probe to slowly pull one of the tendrils away from his neural tissue. It resisted, clinging like it was alive. These things are horrible. How long have you had them? Since birth, Kale said. All Vrathian hunters are implanted as children. The Council found our world 300 years ago. We were primitives with claws. They turned us into weapons. Yuna felt anger rise in her chest. She had read about the Council's methods, their way of uplifting species under their control. But this was not uplifting. This was enslavement. Tell me about Vrath, she said, trying to keep him talking, keeping him focused on something other than the pain. Your home world. What was it like? Red skies, Kale said, his voice distant. 3 moons. Everything hunts everything. The trees have thorns that inject venom. The water is full of things with too many teeth. My people learned to hunt in packs to use strategy instead of just strength. We were good at survival. What happened when the Council came? They offered technology, medicine, food synthesizers. Our leaders accepted. Then the implants became mandatory. For the good of society, they said. To help us integrate with galactic civilization. Within 1 generation, we went from free hunters to trained killers. Yuna carefully disconnected the first major node. Kale convulsed, his claws digging deeper into the table. She held steady, refusing to let the tool slip. Almost there, she said. 2 more nodes. You should let me die, Kyle said suddenly. I have killed so many. I have ended lives on dozens of worlds. Some of them probably deserved it. Many did not. I am not worth saving. That's the implants talking, Yuna said. They want you to think you're just a weapon. But you made a choice tonight. That proves you're more than what they made you. One choice does not erase 200 years of killing. No, Yuna agreed, working on the second node. But it's a start. And every journey starts with a single step. That's what my mother used to say. Tell me about your mother, Kale said. She was a teacher, Yuna said. History. She taught me that people can change, that societies can change. It just takes courage and time. She died 5 years ago. Cancer. I think she would have liked you. She would have liked a monster that came to kill her daughter. She would have liked someone who chose to be better. Yuna disconnected the second node. Kale's body relaxed slightly. 1 more. The final node was the deepest, wrapped around a cluster of neurons that controlled Kale's higher reasoning. This one would be the most dangerous. If she damaged it, she might kill him or leave him unable to think clearly. This is the main one, she said. It's going to hurt worse than the others. Do it, Kyle said. Yuna took a deep breath and began. The node fought her every step of the way, sending electrical surges through Kale's system. His body thrashed. His claws scraped deep grooves in the table. But Yuna held steady, her engineer's hands precise and careful. Finally, with a soft click, the last connection came free. She pulled the node out and dropped it into a containment jar. The 3 implants lay there, still pulsing weakly, even separated from their host. Kale lay still for a long moment. Then he sat up slowly, raising one hand to the back of his head where Yuna had closed the incision with medical adhesive. It is quiet, he said, his voice filled with wonder. For the first time since I was a child, my mind is quiet. No voices, no orders, no pain. How do you feel? Yuna asked. Kale looked at his hands, flexing each claw individually. Lost, he said honestly. I do not know what to do without orders. I do not know who I am without a mission. You figure it out, Yuna said, one choice at a time. Starting with this one, what do you want to do right now? Kale thought about it. Without the implant screaming at him, he could hear his own thoughts clearly, and his first thought was simple and clear. "I want to protect you," he said. "The Council will send others. You are in danger because I failed. I want to fix that." "You don't owe me anything," Una said. "This is not about debt," Kyle said. "You saw me as a person. You gave me freedom. These are gifts I cannot repay, but I can choose to stand between you and what comes next. That is my choice," Una smiled. "Then we work together. I'll figure out how to warn Earth. You help me stay alive long enough to do it." "Deal?" "Deal," Kale said. He extended one primary claw carefully. Una reached out and shook it, her small hand wrapping around one of his talons. They spent the rest of the night preparing. Una downloaded her research data onto secure drives and encrypted them. She sent coded messages to her brother Day back on Earth, trying to warn him without being too obvious. Kale studied the station's layout, identifying defensive positions and escape routes. As dawn broke over New Busan, painting the laboratory in shades of orange and red, they heard it. The sound of ships dropping out of FTL close to the station. Too many ships. Una pulled up the sensor display. 12 signatures, all military grade. "They are here," Kyle said, moving to the window. He could see them now, sleek ships forming a perimeter around the station. "Kill squad. The Council sends them when hunters fail. Can we fight them?" Una asked. "No," Kale said, "but we can survive them. I know their tactics. I trained with some of them. They will try to board and clear the station room by room. We need to make that difficult." "I can help with that," Una said. She pulled up the station's engineering schematics. "I can reroute power, create electrical barriers, maybe even vent sections to space. Buy us time. Time for what?" "For Earth to respond. I sent that coded message to my brother. If he got it, if he understood it, help might be coming. And if no help comes?" Una looked at him steadily. "Then we go down fighting, together." Kyle felt something strange in his chest, a warmth he had never experienced before. The Vrathians had stories, old myths from before the Council came. Stories about warriors who found something worth protecting, something that made them stronger than simple bloodlust ever could. The stories called it the bonded rage. Kale had always thought they were just stories. But now, looking at this small human who had given him freedom and asked for nothing in return, he wondered if the old stories were true. The first boarding pod hit the station's hull with a metallic clang. The invasion had begun. "Stay behind me," Kale said, his claws extending. "And if I tell you to run, you run. Understand?" "I understand," Una said. "But I'm not leaving you." "Stubborn human," Kyle said, but there was something like affection in his voice. "Stubborn Vrathian," Una replied. They moved to the laboratory door together. Outside, in the corridors of the station, the kill squad was coming. 12 of the galaxy's most dangerous hunters, armed with Council technology and years of training. But they were not hunting a defenseless engineer anymore. They were walking into a trap designed by human cleverness and defended by a Vrathian who had finally found something worth fighting for. The battle for New Busan Station had begun, and in that moment, as Kale stood between Una and the approaching danger, he realized something profound. For 200 years he had been the thing that others feared in the dark. Now, he was the thing that monsters should fear, because he was not just a hunter anymore, he was a guardian, and guardians did not fail. Part 3, The Guardian's Fury. The first hunter died quickly. He came through the laboratory door expecting an easy target, and found Kale waiting instead. The hunter, a reptilian creature from the Scar worlds, barely had time to raise his weapon before Kale's claws took his head off. The body fell with a wet thump. "They will be more careful now," Kale said, pulling Una deeper into the lab. "They know I am here. They will send multiple hunters at once." "Good," Una said. She was at her workstation, fingers flying across the controls. "The more predictable they are, the better my traps work." She had spent the last 20 minutes turning her peaceful research station into a death maze. Electrical barriers that could fry anything that touched them. Sealed bulkheads that could trap invaders in small sections. And her personal favorite, the gravity plating controls that could send enemies floating helplessly or pin them to the floor with crushing force. "They are coming from 2 directions," Kale said, his enhanced hearing picking up the sounds of movement. "North corridor and ventilation shaft." "On it." Una activated 2 traps simultaneously. In the north corridor, the gravity plating reversed. sending 3 hunters crashing into the ceiling with bone-breaking force. In the ventilation shaft, she vented the atmosphere, forcing the climbers to retreat or suffocate. 4 down, 8 to go, she said. Kale moved to the door, listening carefully. He had trained with soldiers like this, knew how they thought. They would regroup now, change tactics, stop treating this like a simple assassination and start treating it like a military operation. They will cut the power, he said. Remove your advantages. Then we fall back to position 2, Una said. The storage bay. I set up a surprise there. They moved through the darkened corridors, Kale in front, all 4 arms ready. Twice they encountered hunters. Both times Kale struck before they could react. He was not the strongest fighter in the galaxy, but he was fast and he knew how to kill efficiently. But something was different this time. Each kill felt wrong, even though they were trying to kill him first. The implants had always suppressed these feelings before. Now without them, he felt the weight of every life he took. You hesitate, Una said as they reached the storage bay. Why? Killing was easy when I did not think about it, Kale said. Now I think about everything. These hunters, they have lives. Families, perhaps. They are doing what I did, following orders. They also have a choice, Una said. Same choice you had. They chose differently. Does that make killing them right? No, Una said honestly. But it makes it necessary. I'm sorry you have to carry that weight. Before Kale could respond, the storage bay doors exploded inward. 6 hunters poured through, weapons blazing. Kale pushed Una behind a cargo container and charged to meet them. The fight was brutal. These were not simple soldiers. They were apex predators from a dozen different worlds, each one specialized for killing. A crystalline hunter that could refract energy weapons, a blob-like creature that could absorb physical attacks, a mechanical assassin with blades for hands. Kale fought like a demon, his forearms moving in patterns too fast to follow. He ducked under the mechanical assassin's strikes and tore out its power core. He shattered the crystalline hunter with a resonant strike to its core structure. He flash-froze the blob creature using a canister of liquid nitrogen from Una's supplies. But there were too many. Claws raked across his armor, cutting deep. An energy blast caught him in the side, burning through his secondary layer of protection. He fell to one knee, bleeding from a dozen wounds. The largest hunter, a massive creature with 6 arms and mandibles like a bear trap, stepped forward. You are weak, Kale. You have allowed attachment to a lesser species to cloud your purpose. The Council offers mercy. Kill the human now and you may live. Kale looked back at Una. She had her hands on some kind of device, waiting. She met his eyes and nodded once. Trust. I have a better idea, Kyle said. What is that? Get down! Una shouted. She activated the device and the storage bay's rear wall exploded outward. The decompression was instant and violent. Cargo containers, loose equipment, and 3 unprepared hunters were sucked into space. Kyle had grabbed onto a secured railing with his secondary arms. The massive hunter tried to do the same but was too slow. It tumbled into the void, its scream cut short. Emergency bulkhead slammed down, sealing the breach. The bay was ruined, open to vacuum, but the rest of the station was secure. 2 hunters remained, trapped in the bay with them. Explosive decompression, Una said, slightly out of breath. Works every time in the movies. Glad it worked in real life. The 2 remaining hunters looked at each other, then at Kale. They were wounded, tired, and had just watched their team leader get sucked into space by a human engineer. The Council does not pay enough for this, one of them said. He dropped his weapon and raised his hands. We withdraw. Coward, the other hunter spat. But he was alone now and he knew it. After a moment, he too dropped his weapon. This contract is void. Kale let them go. They retreated to their ship and jumped to FTL as soon as they cleared the gravity well. The remaining hunters, those who had survived the traps and the decompression, also withdrew. Within an hour, the station was quiet. Una found Kale in the medical bay, trying to treat his wounds with supplies meant for humans. She gently pushed his hands away and started working on him properly. You scared me, she said quietly. When you went down, I thought, I am difficult to kill, Kale said. My species is resilient. That's not the same as invincible. She sealed a deep cut on his primary arm. You took hits meant for me. I saw you. You could have dodged that energy blast, but you stayed between it and me. That is what guardians do. Is that what you are now? My guardian? Kale thought about it. Without the implants, he could examine his own feelings, his own motivations. What he felt for this human was not what the council had programmed into him. It was something he had chosen. Yes, he said simply, if you will have me. Yuna was quiet for a moment, finishing her work on his wounds. Then she said, my quarters have a door. If you're going to be my guardian, that's where you stand. If you're going to protect me, that's where you start. I will stand there every night, Kale said. Nothing will pass me. Even my nightmares? Especially those. Yuna smiled, but it was tired and sad. I haven't told you about the nightmares yet. You wake up screaming, Kale said. I can hear it through the walls. You dream about the moment in the laboratory, when you thought I would kill you. You dream about the blade that almost pierced your throat during the fight. I can smell your fear even rooms away. Nightmares aren't real enemies, Yuna said. You can't fight them with claws. Then I will learn new ways to fight, Kale said. Nightmares are just another kind of prey. I will hunt them for you. That night, Kale took his position outside Yuna's quarters. The door was simple metal, scarred from the day's battle. He sat with his back against the wall, all four arms relaxed but ready, his enhanced senses tracking every sound in the station. Around midnight, he heard her breathing change. Faster, shallow, the rhythm of fear. He heard her whimper, a small sound of distress. Without the door open, without any way to see what was happening, he knew. The nightmares had come. Kyle stood and placed one hand against the door. Yuna, he said, his voice low and steady. I am here. You are safe. The things in your dreams cannot hurt you. I will not allow it. Inside the room, Yuna woke with a gasp. She had been dreaming of claws and darkness and death. But the sound of Kale's voice cut through the fear like a blade through silk. She got up and opened the door. Kale stood there, massive and deadly, his eyes glowing softly in the dim corridor light. You heard me, she said. I will always hear you, Kale replied. Sleep, I am on watch. Nothing will harm you. Yuna should have been afraid of him. He was a killer, a predator designed to end life. But when she looked at him, all she felt was safe. Thank you, she said. I owe you everything, Kyle said. This is the smallest of repayments. She went back to bed, leaving the door open a crack. Kale settled back into his position, listening to her breathing slowly return to the rhythm of peaceful sleep. And he understood then what the old stories meant. The bonded rage was not just about fighting. It was about finding something worth protecting, something that made you more than just a weapon. Yuna had given him freedom, but he had given himself purpose. He would stand at her door every night. He would hunt her nightmares. He would be the shield between her and anything that meant her harm. The council would send more hunters. He knew this. They would not forgive his failure or her survival. There would be more battles, more blood, more death, but that was tomorrow's problem. Tonight his duty was simple. Stand guard, keep watch, protect. And for the first time in 200 years of killing, Kale felt like he was doing something that mattered. The Guardian had found his purpose, and the nightmares learned to fear the darkness, because something far more terrifying than them was standing watch. 3 weeks after the battle, Yuna's nightmares were getting worse. Every night, Kale stood outside her door and listened to her fight invisible enemies in her sleep. Every night, she woke up gasping, covered in cold sweat. And every night, Kyle spoke to her through the door, his deep voice a steady anchor in the dark. I do not understand human psychology, Kyle said one morning as they shared breakfast in the repaired cafeteria. But I understand hunting. Your nightmares are prey. I should be able to hunt them. But I do not know how. Trauma doesn't work like that, Yuna said, stirring her coffee without drinking it. She had dark circles under her eyes, darker than before. It's not something you can kill with claws. It's in my head, my memories. The fear response gets triggered even when I'm safe. You are safe, Kale said firmly. I will not let anything harm you. I know, Yuna said, and she meant it. But my brain doesn't always listen to logic. It remembers the moment when claws were coming toward me. It remembers thinking I was going to die, and it replays that moment over and over when I sleep. Kale was quiet for a moment, thinking. What helps? On Vrath, young hunters who experienced trauma were given tasks. Purpose. Focus on the future instead of the past. Work helps, Yuna admitted. When I'm focused on equations and problems, I don't think about it. It's only when I try to sleep that everything comes back. Then I need to make sleep safe, Kale said. Not just guarding your door. Something more. That night, when Yuna went to her quarters, she found something unexpected. Kale had moved a chair to a spot where he could see her door, but was not directly blocking it. He sat there, and in his hands was a small device. "What is that?" Yuna asked. "A translator pad," Kale said. "I have been researching human culture. I found something called music. Humans use it for comfort, for peace. I thought—" He paused, uncertain. "I thought you might want to hear some while you sleep, so your mind has something else to focus on." Yuna felt tears prick her eyes. This deadly hunter, this creature designed for killing, had spent his day researching how to help her sleep better. "That's very kind of you," she said softly. "I do not know what kind is," Kale said. "I only know you need rest. You are exhausted. This impairs your judgment and your ability to survive." "It is practical," Yuna smiled. "Okay, practical then. Will you stay there? Close enough that I can hear you if I need to?" "I will not move," Kyle promised. That night, soft music played in the corridor outside Yuna's room. Something classical, gentle. Nothing with sudden loud notes that might startle. And when the nightmares came, when Yuna's breathing quickened and she began to whimper, Kale's voice cut through. "I am here," he said, steady and sure. "You are on the station. You are in your bed. The things you fear are not real. I am real. I am here. You are safe." Yuna woke, but this time the fear faded faster. She could hear the music, could hear Kale's breathing, steady and calm. She closed her eyes and went back to sleep. It became their routine. Every night, Kale sat outside her door. Sometimes he played music. Sometimes he simply spoke, telling her old stories from Vrath, tales of hunters and courage and survival. His voice became the thread that pulled her out of nightmares and back to safety. Slowly, the bad dreams came less often, but the outside world was not waiting for Yuna to heal. 1 month after the first assassination attempt, they received a message from Earth. It was encrypted, sent through secret channels, but it was from Yuna's brother Day. The Council contacted Earth's government, Day's message said, his face tense on the small screen. "They're demanding you surrender yourself and all data on the Fold drive. They've threatened a full economic embargo if we don't comply. No trade, no access to Council space, complete isolation. The government is debating what to do. Some want to surrender you to save Earth. Others want to fight. What do you think will happen?" Yuna asked, even though Day could not hear her. The message was pre-recorded. "I think they'll ask you to turn yourself in." Day continued, as if reading her mind. "They'll say it's for the greater good. That one life isn't worth billions suffering. And maybe they're right. But I wanted you to know first so you can make your own choice. Whatever you decide, little sister, I love you, and I'm proud of you for not backing down." The message ended. Yuna sat in silence, staring at the blank screen. "You will not surrender," Kale said. It was not a question. "I don't know," Yuna said honestly. "If my staying alive means Earth suffers, maybe I should." "No." Kyle's voice was hard, final. "The Council uses fear as a weapon. They threaten embargo because they know humans will sacrifice their own to save the many. But if you surrender, they win. They prove that any species can be controlled through threats. And if I don't surrender, billions of people might suffer. Then we show the galaxy that the Council can be defeated," Kale said. "We prove that their assassins can be stopped. We make them fear what happens when they threaten humanity." "How?" Yuna asked. "We barely survived 12 hunters. The Council has thousands. Then we do not fight thousands," Kale said. "We fight one, the most dangerous one, and we broadcast it to the galaxy." Over the next week, Kale explained his plan. There was a bounty hunter named Rask, famous across the galaxy for taking impossible contracts. He had killed 3 council members in his career, politicians who had angered the wrong people. He was not the strongest fighter, but he was the most feared. "If we leak our location to Rask and I defeat him in single combat," Kyle said, "the Council will have to reconsider. Other bounty hunters will think twice. It buys time. Or you die," Yuna said. "Possibly," Kale agreed. "But I am not what I was. I fight now with purpose, not just programming. That makes me more dangerous than Rask knows." "I don't want you to die for me," Yuna said. "And I do not want you to surrender yourself to people who will kill you," Kyle replied. "We each make our choices. Mine is to fight." They leaked their location through underground channels, making it clear that Yuna was undefended and worth a significant reward. 3 days later, Rask arrived. He was a cyborg, more machine than organic, with weapon systems built into his body and tactical programs running constantly in his enhanced brain. He had killed for 40 years and never failed. The fight happened in the station's cargo bay, the largest open space available. Yuna set up cameras to broadcast to networks across the galaxy. If this was going to happen, everyone would see it. Rask entered with his weapons armed, scanning for targets. He found Kale waiting in the center of the bay. "You are the hunter who failed," Rask said, his voice mechanical and cold. "The Council wants you dead almost as much as the human. 2 bounties for 1 fight, efficient." "You will not touch her," Kyle said. "I kill what I am paid to kill," Rask said. "Nothing personal." "For me it is very personal." They fought. Rask was strong, fast, his cyborg body enhanced beyond normal limits. He had blades that extended from his arms, energy weapons built into his shoulders, armor that could withstand most attacks. But Kale was not fighting to complete a mission anymore. He was fighting to protect someone who had given him freedom and treated him like a person. He was fighting with the bonded rage, that old Vrathian fury that came from finding something worth more than your own life. The battle was brutal and quick. Kale took damage, terrible damage that would have killed a lesser creature, but he did not stop. He moved with a speed and ferocity that even Rask's tactical programs could not predict. In the end, Kale stood over Rask's disabled body, his claws at the cyborg's throat. "Tell the Council," Kale said, loud enough for the cameras to hear. "Tell them that the human is under protection. Tell them that anyone who comes for her will face me, and tell them that I do not fail anymore." He let Rask live, let him crawl back to his ship and jump to FTL. The message would spread. The galaxy would see that the Council's weapons could be defeated. But the cost was high. Kale collapsed after Rask left, his body shutting down from the damage. Yuna worked for 16 hours straight, using every medical supply on the station to keep him alive. When he finally woke 3 days later, he found Yuna asleep in a chair next to his bed, her hand resting on his arm. "You stayed," he said quietly. She woke up immediately. "Of course I stayed. You nearly died protecting me." "That is my purpose," Kyle said. "No," Yuna said firmly. "Your purpose is not to die for me. Your purpose is to live, to be free, to make choices. Protecting me is one of those choices, but it's not the only one that matters." "Then what else matters?" Yuna smiled. "You matter, Kyle, just you as a person. Not as a weapon or a guardian or anything else, just you." Kale was quiet for a long time. "I do not know how to be just myself," he admitted. "I have been a weapon for so long." "Then we figure it out together," Yuna said. "One day at a time." That night, when Yuna returned to her quarters, Kyle took his position outside her door. But this time, when she woke from a nightmare, he did something different. He opened the door and stood in the doorway, visible, real, solid. "I am here," he said. "You can see me. I am not a dream. Your nightmares cannot harm you while I stand here." Yuna looked at him, this massive creature who had learned gentleness, and she felt the fear drain away. "Thank you," she whispered. "Sleep," Kyle said. "I am hunting your nightmares. They will not return tonight." And they did not, because the Guardian had learned that some prey could only be defeated with patience, presence, and the quiet promise that no matter how dark the dreams became, someone would always be standing watch. Someone who chose to care. The message from the Council came 2 weeks after Kale's fight with Rask. It was broadcast to the entire station, impossible to ignore or delete. Overseer Thal's face appeared on every screen, his scaled features composed and cold. "Yuna, engineer of Earth," he said. "You have 72 hours to surrender yourself and your research. If you do not comply, we will deploy a plague bearer to New Busan colony. 5,000 human colonists will die from a targeted pathogen designed specifically for your species. Their deaths will be on your conscience." The transmission ended. Yuna sat frozen, staring at the blank screen. "They would not," she whispered. "They would not kill 5,000 innocent people." "They would," Kale said quietly. "The Council has done worse. They once sterilized an entire species for refusing to join their alliance. They do not make empty threats." Yuna stood up, pacing. "Then I have to surrender. I can't let all those people die because of me." "If you surrender, you die," Kale said. "And the Council still gets your research. They will probably still kill the colonists anyway, to send a message. The Council does not negotiate in good faith. Then what do we do?" Yuna asked, her voice breaking. "There has to be something." Kale was quiet for a long moment, his enhanced mind working through possibilities. The plague bearer will be on a carrier ship, he said finally. Heavily guarded. They will keep it in containment until the deadline passes. If we can board that ship, kill the plague bearer, and destroy the pathogen before it is released. That's impossible, Una said. We barely survived 12 hunters. A carrier ship will have hundreds of soldiers. Yes, Kyle agreed. It is likely a suicide mission. But it is the only option that saves both you and the colonists. I won't ask you to die for me, Una said. You are not asking, Kyle said. I am choosing. You taught me that I can make choices. This is mine. Una looked at him, this deadly creature who had become her closest friend, her guardian, her family. Then we go together, she said. We fight together. We survive together or we don't survive at all. That is acceptable, Kyle said. And for the first time since she had met him, she saw something in his eyes that might have been a smile. They spent the next day preparing. Una modified her fold drive prototype, the one that had started all of this. It was unstable, dangerous, could explode if used incorrectly, but it could jump them directly onto the carrier ship, bypassing all external defenses. One jump, she said, checking the calculations for the 10th time. That's all it can do before the power core burns out. We get one chance to get in, no way to get out. Then we make sure we succeed before we worry about escape, Kale said. At midnight, 70 hours before the deadline, they activated the fold drive. Reality twisted around them, space folding in ways that hurt to think about. Then they were there, materializing in a cargo bay deep inside the carrier ship. Alarms screamed immediately. They had perhaps 5 minutes before soldiers arrived in force. The plague bearer will be in the containment section, Kale said, moving quickly through the corridors. Center of the ship, maximum security. They ran through the ship, Kale in front, cutting down anyone who tried to stop them. But he was not killing for the council anymore. He was killing to protect, to save. It still felt wrong, but it felt necessary. Una stayed close, her modified tools jury-rigged into weapons. She was not a fighter, but she had learned from Kale. Adaptation, improvisation, survival. They reached the containment section. The door was massive, reinforced, designed to withstand anything. Una placed shaped charges she had built from station supplies. This will either open the door or kill us, she said. I have faith in your engineering, Kale said. The explosion was massive but controlled. The door collapsed inward. Beyond it was a chamber, and in that chamber was another Vrathian. He was larger than Kyle, older, his armor scarred from centuries of battles. And in his eyes was nothing but cold purpose, little brother. The plague bearer said, You have fallen far, protecting humans, betraying the council. Have you forgotten what we are? I remember what we were, Kale said. Hunters, warriors, free people, before the council turned us into slaves. We were primitive and weak, the plague bearer said. The council gave us purpose. You spit on that gift, they gave us chains, Kale said. She gave me freedom. The plague bearer looked at Una with contempt. This weak creature? She will die in decades. What you feel for her is meaningless. What I feel for her is my choice, Kale said. That makes it the most meaningful thing I have ever known. They fought. 2 Vrathians, both apex predators, both deadly. But the plague bearer fought for the council, for duty, for programming. Kale fought for something the older hunter could not understand. He fought for the person who saw him as more than a weapon, for the one who stood by him when she could have run, for the quiet night standing watch outside her door, for the trust in her eyes when she let him hunt her nightmares. The fight was brutal. Both hunters bled. Both took terrible wounds, but Kale would not stop, could not stop. The bonded rage filled him, giving him strength beyond his limits. While they fought, Una worked on the containment systems. The pathogen was stored in pressurized canisters, ready to be released over the colony. She began overriding the safety protocols, reversing the release mechanism. The plague bearer saw what she was doing. He roared and charged past Kale, his claws reaching for her. Kale threw himself in front of the attack. The plague bearer's claws punched through his chest between the armor plates, deep enough to pierce vital organs. But Kale's own claws found their target. The plague bearer's throat, his primary heart. His brainstem, both hunters fell, Una screamed. She left the controls and ran to Kale, pressing her hands against his wounds, trying to stop the bleeding. There was so much blood, dark blue and hot, pooling around them. The pathogen, Kale gasped. Destroy it. I don't care about the pathogen, Una shouted. You're dying. Then let me die protecting them, Kale said, please. Let this mean something. Una wanted to refuse, wanted to save him instead of 5,000 strangers, but she knew he was right. She left him, returning to the controls, her hands shaking so badly she could barely work. She reversed the release sequence and activated the ship's sterilization protocols. The containment chamber flooded with superheated plasma, destroying the pathogen and the plague-bearer's body. The threat was over, but Kale was still bleeding. Una grabbed him, dragging his massive body toward the cargo bay. She did not know where she was going. She did not know how to escape. She only knew she would not let him die alone. They made it to the bay before soldiers found them. Kale, barely conscious, placed himself between Una and the soldiers one last time. Then the wall exploded inward. Not from enemy fire, but from a ship, an Earth ship, military-grade, bristling with weapons. Soldiers poured through human soldiers, pushing back the Council forces. Una, a familiar voice shouted. Her brother Day, in military armor, leading the rescue team. We got your signal, hold on. They grabbed her and Kale, dragging them to the ship. The fold drive had sent out a distress beacon when it activated, and Earth had sent everything they had to respond. On the ship's medical bay, human doctors worked on Kale with skills and tools they barely understood. Una stood over them, shouting instructions, refusing to leave. For 3 days, Kale hung between life and death, and for 3 days, Una sat beside him, one hand on his arm, speaking to him constantly. You have to wake up, she said. You have to come back. You still need to guard my door. You still need to hunt my nightmares. I still need you, Kale, please. On the 4th day, he opened his eyes. Did we succeed? He rasped. Yes, Una said, tears streaming down her face. The colony is safe. The pathogen is destroyed. You saved them. Good, Kale said. Then I can rest. No, Una said firmly. You can heal. You can recover. Then you can get back to work because I still have nightmares and you promised to hunt them. Something like a laugh escaped Kale's damaged lungs. Stubborn human, stubborn Vrathian, Una replied. The news of what happened spread across the galaxy. The Council tried to spin it, tried to maintain control, but too many species had seen what happened, seen a human and a Vrathian working together to save lives, seen the Council willing to kill thousands of innocents to maintain power. Support for the Council began to crack. Several species withdrew from the alliance. Others demanded reforms. The galaxy was changing. 6 months later, Una stood in a diplomatic station that orbited Earth. Beside her stood Kyle, still healing but alive, still deadly but free. They had become ambassadors of a sort. Other Council weapons had started seeking them out, asking how to break their conditioning, how to find freedom. Una and Kale helped them all. At night, in their shared quarters on the station, Una worked on new projects. Not weapons, not drives, but systems for communication, for understanding, for peace. And every night, Kale took his position. Not outside her door anymore, but inside the room in a corner where he could see both her and the entrance. Close enough to protect, close enough that his presence kept the nightmares away. Do you ever regret it? Una asked one night, choosing to not kill me. Everything that came after? Kale thought about it. The pain, the battles, the near death, the loss of everything he had known. But also the freedom, the purpose, the warmth in his chest when Una smiled at him. No, he said simply. You taught me that I was more than a weapon. That gift is worth any price. You taught me that bravery isn't about not being afraid, Una said. It's about being terrified and standing your ground anyway. Thank you for that. They sat in comfortable silence, the human and the hunter, the engineer and the guardian. 2 people from different worlds who had found in each other something the galaxy said was impossible. Family. By choice. And as Una finally drifted to sleep, her breathing deep and peaceful, Kale kept his vigil. The nightmares did not come anymore. They had learned better, because the guardian was watching, and he always would be.